What future awaits the man out of time? Decades ago, Steve Rogers changed the world forever. Now powerful and insidious forces are assembling to ensure he never does it again. Past, present, and future collide as the man out of time reckons with an existential threat determined to set the world on a darker path at any cost. Esteemed creators J. Michael Straczynski and Jesus Saiz embark on an exhilarating new journey for Captain America. I tried to read that in an excited voice, but that synopsis sounds like it was cobbled together from the lines of different synopses in the past few years. So right out of the gate, we have a problem. I've never heard of Jesus Saiz, but I can say that I'm not a fan. The way he draws this cover and all the action scenes throughout are just dull. I also don't like that they added these silver bars to the logo. We know he's a captain. This looks like they're trying too hard. Lots of people wonder where superhero stories get started. Not the origins necessarily, just the latest whatever it is. What is it? Sometimes it starts like this, and that, and a whole lot of this. What is the opposite of dynamic? Because that describes the art. There was so little energy in what's going on that they had to write vroom twice in big letters so that you knew that the motorcycle was actually moving. That dialogue might have worked in a movie or a TV show where you have the hero putting on his costume and getting ready to fight the villain. Jesus Saiz just can't make it work here. Same with the next page. How in the world can you make Captain America riding a motorcycle through a window so boring? A dude tries to kill his boss with a giant robotic dog, and what does Steve say? And the rest, well, you probably saw it on the evening news. But that's not how every story starts. Same as you. You've got a job, and that comes with stories, and maybe some hobbies or secrets, and those always start with stories. Yeah, except for the exclusion of any secrets in this comic. And you aren't the same as us. You're an Avenger. You fought Nazis, cosmic beings. You got turned into a werewolf. And yeah, we regular people have hobbies. My hobby is reading comic books, which are meant to be entertaining. Seeing Steve Rogers live a life just like everybody else isn't entertaining. And unfortunately, it's the just like everybody else part that the story focuses on. The big adventure that Cap takes in this issue is becoming a landlord. Because his landlord has decided that the maintenance costs of the building aren't worth it. So they're selling the building, which means they fire the maintenance guy and evict all the tenants. So Steve buys the building, becomes the landlord, and makes it a rent-controlled building. Ironic, given that rent control often leads to the conditions that cause a landlord to sell it in the first place. But Steve is the protagonist, so I doubt that any consequences will ever come out of this. The rest of the comic is mostly Steve making repairs, being friendly with his tenants, and then flashbacks to when Steve was a kid and his mom died. So Straczynski is just retreading old ground, and this is actually a slight retcon. Rick Remender did almost these exact same flashbacks in his run of Captain America during the whole Dimension Z thing. His mom struggled to pay the rent after his dad died. They were always on the verge of being evicted. His mom got sick, and Steve had to leave grade school to take up odd jobs to pay the rent. His mom dies, and he ends up getting evicted anyways. The only difference here is that Straczynski made Steve a few years older when his mom died than in the Remender run. There isn't much substance going on here. At one point, Sue Storm asks Steve to help the FF with an adventure in Subatomica, but it's only after she makes small talk that she reveals that they have to go right that second. And then, this happens. These guys are fighting for their lives, and Steve says, "The whole time we're fighting, I'm thinking, I wonder if Reed will let me keep the jetpack." And then it's all over, and all I want is to crawl upstairs and get some sleep. What is this, the Millennial Captain America? Surprisingly, we actually get a third action sequence, 2 in a row even. Cap saves a guy whose family was living in their car and then gives him a job making repairs at the apartment building in return for letting his family live there. So really, that action scene was just there to lead back into the boring stuff. If you're wondering if this new Cap run was going to have an antagonist, it does. A billionaire named Travis Lane makes a deal with a South American demon or devil named Asmodee. Asmodee takes over his body so he can have his resources, and then he starts recruiting old AIM scientists. His evil plan is to change the world to benefit him, but maintain the illusion of free will. Even for a Cap villain, that's pretty generic. So I guess the real villain is capitalism, evil businessmen. Straczynski isn't just copying Remender's Steve Rogers run, but also Remender's Sam Wilson run. Nothing says new and boundary breaking, like a comic book writer having the hero fight businessmen. The comic ends on another flashback during the same time period as the previous. Steve, being the skinny guy that he is, walks by a guy who says,
"Jesus, somebody get that kid a sandwich."
Steve says, yeah, I've heard that joke before. But the guy tells him there's a rally nearby handing out free food and drinks. So when he gets there, Steve gets his food, turns around, and he realizes that he's at the rally of the German-American Bund.
Which is not technically the same thing as the Nazi Party. So.
Now, if I was Steve, I still would have lined my pockets with as much food as I could take. I mean, he's broke. What this flashback has to do with the rest of the story, I have no idea. Is it foreshadowing something to come? The better question is, why should the audience stick around to find out? Nothing about this story says exciting first issue that's meant to draw you in. It says, we brought in a talented writer that people respect, at least more than a lot of the modern writers, and we're going to have him write the safest material possible for Captain America. And by safe, I don't just mean retreading old material, I mean making Captain America a slice of life story. If I have any old Cap fans watching, do you remember when Captain America had swashbuckling adventures? Steve didn't used to only fight Nazis. He used to travel around the states following up on leads he got from the hotline. He fought the government. He searched for mystical objects in temples. Captain America used to be fun. Now Marvel does pretty much only have him fighting Nazis. Sometimes they'll spice it up by having him fight a businessman. Though I'll give credit where credit's due, Steve isn't questioning his conviction or what the American dream means. Knock on wood. The distinction between J. Michael Straczynski's current Captain America run and previous runs lies in the treatment of slice-of-life elements. For instance, in the 1980s, a character like Bernie Rosenthal wasn't solely the love interest of Steve Rogers, she also served as a new perspective. She offered Steve a lens into the modern era, helping him adapt his ideology and define his role as a hero for that time. In contrast, today's perspective characters like the Daughters of Liberty in Ta-Nehisi Coates' run, Steve's artist friends in Kelly and Lansing's run, and now his tenants in Straczynski's run, don't provide unbiased information. Instead, they often serve as a mouthpiece for the writer, dictating Steve's actions rather than letting him draw on his own experiences and beliefs. This shift results in Steve Rogers no longer making decisions based on his unique perspective, but rather he merely follows orders, potentially diluting his portrayal as Captain America. Now let me clarify some of my opinions here. I do think that there was an attempt here to right the ship. Maybe someone at Marvel recognized that Captain America has been consistently subpar in the last decade, maybe a little too one-sided politically, so they brought in a more experienced writer and went back to the basics of Cap's story. But they are simultaneously trying too hard and playing it too safe. It's boring. As in issue 1 for new readers, there's nothing to captivate you. Nothing is being said about Steve Rogers as a character. And for the old readers, they're making the same mistake that they've made for the past 10 years. They keep going back and recontextualizing the past to make the rest of the story make sense. They never move forward with this character. I would never go as far as to say that Ta-Nehisi Coates' Cap run was good or even passable, but at least Coates had something to say. I might have disagreed with it, but it was still something different. This is just boring. I'm not a J. Michael Straczynski hater. One More Day was an editorial decision, and I'm sure Straczynski did the best he could with the mandate he was given. And I thoroughly enjoyed his run on Thor. But this just isn't it. To my fellow Captain America fans, new and old, you've heard my opinions, now let me know yours in the comment section below. As always, if you enjoyed this video, I would appreciate it if you would hit that like and subscribe button, as well as the notification bell so you never miss out on a new video. Thanks for watching.